The keypad beeped 3 times. The door unlocked. I stepped inside the Airbnb and froze. The lights were already on. A coffee mug sat on the kitchen counter, still warm, steam rising in the darkness. And then I heard it. Footsteps coming from the bedroom I had just paid $200 to sleep in, alone. You think you know what it means to feel unsafe. You think checking reviews and reading ratings protects you. But there are some things that don't show up in 5-star comments, some doors that should never be opened, and some rooms where the previous guest never actually left. What I'm about to tell you are 8 real stories, 8 travelers who booked a place to stay, 8 people who discovered that the nightmare begins the moment you step through that door. These are the true horror stories of Airbnb, the ones that don't make it into the welcome guide. The clock read 11:47 p.m. when Sarah Chen first noticed the smell. Not bad, not exactly good either, just present, like someone had been cooking hours ago, maybe days. She'd arrived at the Portland apartment 30 minutes earlier, dragging her suitcase up 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was broken. The host hadn't mentioned that in the listing. The apartment looked exactly like the photos. Exposed brick, industrial lighting, plants in the corner that seemed a little too healthy for a rental. Sarah dropped her bags and headed to the bedroom. That's when she saw it, a jacket hanging on the back of the door, men's, large, worn leather with a smell of cigarettes clinging to the fabric. She stood there, staring. The listing said the place would be empty, cleaned, ready for her arrival. But this jacket, it looked lived in. She lifted her phone, texted the host, "Hey, there's a jacket here. Should I just leave it?" The message showed as delivered. No response. Sarah walked back to the living room. That's when she noticed the other things. A pair of shoes by the couch, size 12, men's work boots, mud still caked on the soles, fresh mud, like someone had walked through rain today. Her throat tightened. She checked the listing again. Entire place to yourself. That's what it said. Entire place. So why did it feel like she was sharing it? She moved toward the kitchen, opened the fridge. Inside, there was food, not old food, fresh food. Milk with an expiration date 2 weeks away. Eggs, a half-eaten sandwich wrapped in plastic. The kind of fridge that belongs to someone who lives here, not someone who left. Sarah's phone buzzed. Finally, the host. "Oh yeah, sorry, my roommate sometimes forgets his stuff. Just ignore it. He won't bother you." Roommate. The word sat wrong in her mouth. The listing didn't mention a roommate. Didn't mention anyone else. Just her. Alone in this apartment for 3 nights. She tried to brush it off. Tried to tell herself it was fine. People forget things. It happens. But at 1:33 a.m., Sarah woke up. Not because of a nightmare. Because of a sound. A key turning in the lock. The front door opening. Slowly. Deliberately. Footsteps in the dark. Heavy. Male. Moving through the living room. Sarah didn't breathe. Didn't move. Just listened. The footsteps stopped. Right outside her bedroom door. Silence. Then, the door handle. It turned, just slightly, like someone testing it, seeing if it was locked. Sarah had locked it. Thank God she had locked it. The handle released. The footsteps moved away into the other bedroom, the one she hadn't checked, the one she assumed was empty. A door closed, a bed creaked, and then nothing. Just the sound of someone settling in. Someone who had a key. Someone who knew this place. Someone who lived here. Sarah didn't sleep. Not that night. Not the next. She left a day early. The host never refunded her. And when she left a review mentioning the unexpected roommate, it was deleted within an hour. But here's the thing that still haunts her. That last morning, when she finally gathered the courage to leave, she passed the other bedroom. The door was open, just a crack, and inside she saw him. sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. He didn't look at her, didn't acknowledge her, just sat there like he'd been waiting for something or someone. Before we go further, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because here at Visões Proibidas, every story leaves a different shadow on those who listen. And trust me, these shadows get darker. Marcus Webb thought he'd found a steal, a cabin in the Appalachian Mountains, 200 miles from the nearest town, $49 a night. The photos showed wood beams, a stone fireplace, and windows that looked out over endless forest. The reviews were perfect. 5 stars, every single one. Peaceful, secluded, exactly what I needed. Marcus needed peace. His divorce had been brutal. His job was crushing him. He wanted silence. He wanted to disappear for a week. And this cabin, this was it. He arrived just before sunset. The drive up the mountain had been longer than expected. Winding roads that seemed to fold in on themselves. No cell service for the last hour. Just trees and shadows, and the occasional deer watching from the roadside. The cabin was exactly where the directions said it would be, tucked into a clearing, surrounded by pines. The key was under the mat, just like the host promised. Marcus unlocked the door and stepped inside. It smelled like wood smoke and something else, something organic, earth, decay, the kind of smell that comes from places that have been closed up too long. He flicked the light switch. Nothing. He tried again. Still nothing. The host had mentioned the electricity could be finicky. There was a generator out back. Marcus found a flashlight in the kitchen drawer and went outside. The generator was old, rusted, but it started on the 3rd pull. Lights flickered on inside the cabin. Marcus smiled. This was going to be perfect. That first night was quiet, too quiet. Marcus cooked dinner on the gas stove, read a book by the fireplace, went to bed at 10. He woke at 3:17 a.m., not because of a sound, because of a feeling, that feeling you get when you're being watched. He opened his eyes. The room was dark, but not empty. He could feel it, presence, like the air itself was holding its breath. Marcus sat up, looked around. Nothing, just shadows. He laughed at himself, paranoid. Too many horror movies. He lay back down, closed his eyes, and that's when he heard it. Breathing, not his breathing, someone else's, slow, steady, coming from somewhere in the room. Marcus's hand shot out, grabbed the flashlight. He turned it on, swept the beam across the room. Nothing, empty. But the breathing, it didn't stop. He stood, checked the closet, nothing. Checked under the bed, nothing. The breathing continued, calm, rhythmic, like someone sleeping. But where? Marcus moved into the living room. The breathing followed, or maybe he was following it. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, from the walls themselves. He checked every room, every corner, every shadow, found nothing. But the breathing never stopped. By dawn, Marcus had convinced himself it was the wind, or the pipes, or something rational, something explainable. He made coffee, tried to shake the feeling, but when he opened the kitchen cabinet to grab a mug, he found something that made his blood run cold. Photos, Polaroids, dozens of them, stacked in a pile where the mugs should be. Photos of people, different people. Men, women, couples, all of them in this cabin, all of them sleeping in the bed where Marcus had just spent the night. The photos were recent. Some looked like they were taken days ago, maybe weeks. All of them had the same angle, taken from above, like someone standing over the bed, watching, photographing, while they slept. Marcus's hands shook. He looked at the most recent photo, a man, alone, lying on his side, face peaceful, unaware, the date stamp on the bottom, yesterday, the day before Marcus arrived. Marcus ran outside, tried to start his car. The battery was dead. completely drained. He hadn't left the lights on. He was sure of it. He looked back at the cabin. Something moved in the window. Just for a second. A shadow. Tall, thin, watching. Marcus ran into the forest, down the mountain. 200 miles is a long way to walk. But he walked it. Took him 3 days. He never went back for his car. Never left a review. Never told anyone what he saw in those photos. Because the last photo in that stack was him, taken that night while he slept, while something stood over him, breathing. Drop a comment below if you've ever felt watched in a place you thought was safe, because sometimes the worst part isn't what you see, it's what sees you. Jennifer and Tom Park had been married for 6 years. Their anniversary was coming up. They wanted something special, something romantic. Tom found a listing in New Orleans, a historic home in the French Quarter, built in 1873. The photos were stunning. 4-poster bed, antique furniture, a balcony that overlooked the street. $250 a night. Worth it for their special weekend. They arrived on a Friday afternoon. The host met them at the door, an older woman, pale skin, dark eyes. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Welcome," she said. Her voice was soft, too soft, like she was trying not to wake something. She handed them the keys, gave them a quick tour. "The bedroom is upstairs, kitchen is stocked, bathroom down the hall. Oh, and," she paused, "don't open the door at the end of the hallway. It's storage, locked for insurance reasons." Jennifer nodded. No problem. They weren't here to snoop. They were here to celebrate. The host left. Tom and Jennifer unpacked, ordered dinner, ate on the balcony while the sun set over the city. It was perfect, exactly what they needed. They went to bed around midnight. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels heavy, like it's pressing down on you. Jennifer woke first. The room was cold, too cold. She could see her breath. In July, in New Orleans, that wasn't right. She nudged Tom. "Do you feel that?" Tom mumbled, turned over, still asleep. Jennifer sat up. The cold was coming from somewhere. She stood, walked toward the bedroom door. It was open, just a crack. She didn't remember leaving it open. She stepped into the hallway. The cold was worse out here, like walking into a freezer. She looked down the hall. The door, the one the host said not to open. Light was coming from underneath it. Pale, flickering, like candlelight. Jennifer's heart started to race. She should go back to bed. Should wake Tom. Should leave this alone. But her feet kept moving. 1 step, 2 steps, closer to the door. The light flickered faster, like something moving in front of it. Back and forth, pacing. Jennifer reached the door, put her hand on the handle. It was ice cold. Frost had formed around the edges. In July, she turned the handle. It wasn't locked. It opened, slowly. The hinges didn't make a sound. Inside was a bedroom, not storage. A bedroom, old, untouched, like it had been frozen in time. The bed was made perfectly. White sheets, white pillows. A single candle burned on the nightstand, and sitting in the chair by the window was a woman. She didn't look at Jennifer, just stared out the window. Her dress was white, old-fashioned, 1800s maybe. Her hair was long, black, hanging down her back like a curtain. Jennifer tried to speak, tried to say something, but no words came. The woman finally turned. Her face, Jennifer will never forget that face. Pale, beautiful, and sad. So deeply sad it hurt to look at. The woman smiled, not a happy smile, a knowing smile. And then she spoke. One word, whispered, "Leave." Jennifer stumbled backward, slammed the door, ran back to the bedroom, shook Tom awake. "We need to go, now." Tom was confused, half asleep. What? Why? Jennifer couldn't explain, couldn't find the words. She just packed, threw everything into their suitcase. Tom followed her lead. They left at 2 a.m. The host called the next morning, angry, demanding to know why they left. Jennifer told her about the door, about the woman. The host was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "What woman? I live alone." Jennifer tried to get a refund. The host refused, said they broke the agreement, left without cause. But 2 weeks later, Jennifer got a message from a stranger, someone who had stayed in that house after them. They sent a photo, taken in the middle of the night, from their bedroom doorway. Looking down the hall, the door at the end was open, and standing in the frame was the woman in white, staring directly at the camera with that same sad smile. The stranger's message said, "She told me to leave too. I didn't listen. I should have." Have you ever stayed somewhere that felt wrong, where the air itself felt sick? Let me know in the comments, because sometimes houses remember, and what they remember shouldn't be disturbed. Kyle Rodriguez was 23, a digital nomad. He'd been traveling for 2 years, working remotely, staying in Airbnbs across Europe. He'd seen dozens of cities, hundreds of apartments. Nothing ever shocked him anymore, until Prague, until the apartment on Salvatorska Street. The listing was perfect, top floor, exposed beams, a view of the castle, $75 a night. The host had over 300 reviews, all positive. Kyle booked it for 2 weeks. He arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. The host wasn't there. The keys were in a lockbox by the door. Kyle let himself in. The apartment was beautiful, exactly like the photos, maybe better. He dropped his bags, set up his laptop, started working. Everything was fine, perfect, until the third night. That's when the messages started. Kyle was working late, around 11 p.m. His laptop was open. He was responding to emails, and then a notification, not from email, from the Airbnb app. A message from the host. "Are you enjoying the apartment?" Kyle typed back, "Yes, it's great, thanks." The host responded immediately. "Good, I'm glad. I'm watching you work. You're very focused." Kyle stopped typing. He stared at the message. "What do you mean you're watching me?" The host replied, "Through the camera. You didn't notice? It's above the bookshelf. I always watch my guests to make sure they're treating the place well." Kyle's stomach dropped. He looked up, scanned the room. Above the bookshelf, there, a small lens, almost invisible, hidden in the decorative molding. A camera pointed directly at the desk where he'd been working, at the couch where he'd been sitting, at the room where he'd been living for 3 days. Kyle stood, walked to the camera, covered it with tape. His phone buzzed. Another message. "Please don't cover the camera. It's for security." Kyle's hands were shaking. "This is illegal. You can't film guests without permission." The host's response was calm, cold. "Check the fine print of the listing. Security cameras are mentioned. You agreed when you booked." Kyle pulled up the listing, scrolled to the bottom. There, in tiny text, "Host uses security devices on property." It didn't specify, didn't say where, just somewhere. Kyle grabbed his laptop, started packing. He wasn't staying here, not another night. His phone buzzed again. "Where are you going, Kyle?" He froze. He hadn't told the host his name, not his full name. The listing was under his username, but the host knew his full name. Kyle looked around the apartment. How many cameras were there? One above the bookshelf. Where else? He started searching, found one in the bathroom, behind the mirror, one in the bedroom, hidden in the smoke detector. 3 cameras, watching everything, recording everything. Kyle left that night, didn't wait for morning. He filed a complaint with Airbnb. They investigated, found nothing. The cameras were disclosed, technically legal, technically within the rules. Kyle's complaint was closed, but here's what haunts him. 2 months later, Kyle was on a dating app, swiping through profiles, and he saw himself, not a photo he'd taken, a screenshot from the apartment. Him sitting at the desk, working, unaware. The profile name was The Hosts. The message underneath the photo said, "My favorite guest." Kyle deleted all his accounts, stopped using Airbnbs. He looks for cameras now, everywhere he goes, scans every room, every corner, every shadow, because once you know they're watching, you never stop checking. Do you check for cameras when you travel? You should. You really should. Emma Liu was a teacher, 34, from Boston. She'd booked a cottage in rural Scotland for a writing retreat. 1 week, alone. No distractions, no internet, just her, a typewriter, and the sound of the ocean. The listing promised solitude, promised peace. The cottage was 3 miles from the nearest village, surrounded by cliffs and wild grass. The host's name was Margaret, an older woman who lived in the village. She'd inherited the cottage from her mother, rented it out occasionally to pay for its upkeep. Emma arrived on a gray Sunday afternoon. The wind was violent, whipping across the cliffs like something alive. Margaret was waiting at the cottage. She handed Emma the keys, showed her where everything was: the kitchen, the fireplace, the bedroom upstairs. "The phone doesn't work," Margaret said. "Hasn't worked in years. If you need something, you'll have to walk to the village, 3 miles east. Follow the road. Don't go near the cliffs at night. The fog gets thick. Easy to get lost." Emma nodded. She wasn't planning on leaving. That was the point. Margaret left. Emma unpacked, made tea, sat by the fireplace and opened her notebook. This was perfect, exactly what she needed. She wrote until the sun set. Then she made dinner, went to bed early. The cottage was silent except for the wind, constant, relentless, like the building itself was breathing. Emma woke at 4 a.m., not because of the wind, because of voices, talking, low, muffled, coming from downstairs. Emma sat up, listened. 2 voices, maybe 3. She couldn't make out the words, but they were there, clear as day. She grabbed her phone, the flashlight, walked to the bedroom door, opened it. The voices stopped. Immediately, like someone had flipped a switch. Emma stood there, listening. Nothing, just wind, just silence. She went downstairs, checked the front door, locked, windows closed. No one could get in. Emma told herself she'd been dreaming. Half asleep, the mind plays tricks. She went back to bed, but at 4 a.m. the next night, the voices came back. Same time, same low murmur. This time, Emma didn't wait. She ran downstairs, burst into the living room, empty. But the voices, they hadn't stopped. They were coming from the walls, behind the stone fireplace, muffled, like people talking in another room. Emma pressed her ear to the wall. The voices got louder, clearer. She could almost make out words. Almost. She knocked on the wall. Solid stone. No hollow spaces, no hidden rooms. But the voices, they kept talking. Emma grabbed a flashlight, went outside, checked the back of the cottage. Maybe there was a basement entrance. Maybe someone was down there, playing a prank. But there was nothing. Just stone and grass and wind. When she went back inside, the voices had stopped again. This happened every night for 3 nights. 4 a.m. Voices behind the wall. Emma stopped trying to find the source, stopped trying to rationalize it. She just listened. And on the 4th night, she finally understood the words. They were speaking Gaelic, Old Gaelic, a language Emma didn't know, but somehow, some part of her understood. They were arguing, angry, scared, talking about someone who came, someone who stayed, someone who never left. On the 5th day, Emma walked to the village, found Margaret, asked her about the voices. Margaret's face went pale. She looked at Emma for a long moment. Then She said, "You shouldn't have gone there. That cottage, it's where my mother died. Her and 2 others. There was a fire. 1894. They were trapped. Behind the wall, the fireplace collapsed. They screamed for hours. No one heard them. The village was too far. By the time they found the bodies, they were ash." Emma felt her throat close. "Why do you rent it out?" Margaret looked away. "Because they want me to. They told me in dreams. They want company. They don't want to be alone anymore." Emma left that day, didn't finish her week, didn't write another word. When she left a review, it was removed. When she complained to Airbnb, they said the host had disclosed the property's history in the fine print. Historic property with tragic past. Emma never saw it, never read that far. But now she knows some places aren't meant for the living. Some walls hold more than secrets. They hold voices, voices that will never stop talking. If you've made it this far, hit that like button, because these stories, they're only getting darker. David Chen was a photographer, 38, based in Los Angeles. He'd been hired to shoot a wedding in Austin, Texas. He needed a place to stay for the weekend, something cheap, something close to the venue. He found a listing, a small house on the east side, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, $60 a night. The photos were basic, plain furniture, beige walls, nothing special. But it was available, and it was cheap. David booked it. He arrived Friday evening. The host texted him the code for the smart lock. David let himself in. The house was exactly as advertised. Small, clean, boring. He dropped his camera gear in the living room, checked the bedroom, made sure the bed was clean. Everything looked fine. David ordered takeout, ate in front of the TV, went to bed around midnight. He had an early shoot the next day. He needed sleep. David woke at 2:33 a.m. His phone was ringing. Not a call, an alert. From his camera, the one he'd left in the living room. Motion detected. David sat up, grabbed his phone, opened the camera app. His camera had a Wi-Fi feature. It sent alerts when it detected movement. Useful for wildlife photography. Less useful when you're alone in a house. David pulled up the live feed. The camera was pointing at the living room, at the couch, at the front door. Nothing was moving. Everything was still, but the alert was clear. Motion detected 2 minutes ago. David stood, walked to the bedroom door, opened it slowly, looked out into the living room. Dark, quiet. He turned on the light. Empty. He checked the front door. Locked. Windows closed. No one could have gotten in. David told himself it was a glitch. The camera was sensitive. Sometimes it triggered for no reason. He went back to bed, but he didn't sleep. Something felt wrong, like the air in the house had changed, like it was waiting for something. At 3:47 a.m., the camera alert went off again. Motion detected. David checked the feed. This time, he saw it, just for a second, a shape, moving across the frame, dark, tall, human-shaped, but wrong somehow. The proportions were off. The movement was too smooth, too deliberate. The shape moved from the hallway toward the kitchen, then disappeared off camera. David's heart was pounding. He wasn't alone. Someone was in the house, someone who shouldn't be there. David grabbed his phone, called 911. The dispatcher answered. David whispered, "Someone's in my house. I'm at an Airbnb. They're in the living room." The dispatcher stayed on the line. Police were 5 minutes away. David stayed in the bedroom, door locked, phone in hand, watching the camera feed. The shape didn't come back. But at 3:52 a.m., the bedroom door handle started to turn, slowly, testing. David backed away from the door. "They're trying to get in," he whispered to the dispatcher. "They're at the bedroom door." The handle stopped moving. Footsteps, moving away. back toward the living room. Then, nothing. Silence. The police arrived at 3:58 a.m. David heard them knock, heard them announce themselves. He unlocked the bedroom door, ran to let them in. The officers searched the house, every room, every closet, every shadow, found nothing. No one. No signs of forced entry. No evidence anyone had been there. But David showed them the camera footage, played it back. The officers watched, saw the shape, saw it move across the frame. One officer frowned. "That's weird," he said. "That doesn't look like a person. Looks like, I don't know, a shadow." The other officer checked the living room, measured angles, looked at light sources. Could be a car passing outside. Headlights through the window. Creates shadows that look like movement. David wanted to believe that, wanted it to be headlights. But the shape, it moved through the hallway, away from the windows, in a part of the house where no outside light could reach. The officers left, filed a report. Nothing criminal had occurred. David didn't sleep the rest of the night. He left at dawn, didn't wait for checkout time, didn't say goodbye to the host. But here's what David discovered 2 weeks later. He was going through his camera's memory card, looking at photos from the wedding, and there, mixed in with the wedding shots, were photos he didn't take. 37 photos taken that night while he slept. Photos of the living room, empty. Photos of the hallway, empty. Photos of the bedroom door, closed. And the last photo was of David, asleep in bed, taken from the doorway, taken by someone standing right there, watching him while he slept. The timestamp on the photo, 2:17 a.m., 16 minutes before the first motion alert, before David woke up, while something was already inside. David deleted the photos, threw away the memory card, but he can't delete what he knows, that whatever was in that house, it wasn't there when he arrived, and it wasn't there when he left. It's always been there, waiting in the shadows, watching everyone who comes through that door. Would you stay if your camera caught something it shouldn't? Tell me in the comments, because sometimes the lens sees more than we do. Hannah Park and Sophie Chen were best friends, both 27. They'd planned this trip for months. A girls' weekend in Miami. Sun, beach, cocktails. They found the perfect Airbnb, a condo on Ocean Drive. Art Deco building, 15th floor, ocean view. The listing was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture, a balcony that overlooked the water. $300 a night. Split 2 ways. Totally worth it. They arrived Saturday morning. The building was beautiful. Old Hollywood glamour. The host had left the keys with the concierge. Hannah and Sophie took the elevator to the 15th floor, found their unit, opened the door. The condo was perfect, better than the photos. Hannah dropped her bag, ran to the balcony. "Oh my God, Sophie, look at this view." Sophie joined her. The ocean stretched forever, blue and endless. This was going to be an amazing weekend. They unpacked, changed into swimsuits, headed to the beach, spent the afternoon in the sun, came back around 6 p.m., showered, got ready for dinner. That's when Hannah noticed it, in the bathroom, a small crack, in the wall behind the toilet. She wouldn't have seen it if she hadn't dropped her earring. She bent down to pick it up, and there it was, a crack, about 3 inches long. Behind the crack, darkness, not just shadow, complete darkness, like the wall was hollow. Hannah pressed her eye to the crack, tried to see inside. Nothing, just black. She stood, felt uneasy, told Sophie. Sophie looked at the crack, shrugged. Old building, probably just wear and tear. Hannah agreed. They went to dinner, came back around midnight, had some wine, laughed about the day, went to bed around 2 a.m. The condo was quiet, just the sound of the ocean through the open balcony door. Hannah woke at 4:17 a.m. thirsty. She went to the kitchen, got some water, walked past the bathroom, stopped. Light was coming from the bathroom, not the overhead light. A different light, pale, flickering, coming from inside. Hannah pushed the door open. The light was coming from the crack in the wall, shining through, like someone was in there with a flashlight, pointing it through the crack. Hannah's mouth went dry. She knelt down, put her eye to the crack, and on the other side was another eye looking back at her. Hannah screamed, jumped back. Sophie ran out of the bedroom. What happened? Hannah pointed at the crack. There's someone in there, in the wall. I saw them, their eye, looking at me. Sophie bent down, looked through the crack, saw nothing, just darkness. Hannah, there's no one there. You're drunk. It's late. You're seeing things. But Hannah wasn't drunk. Not that drunk. She'd seen it, clear as day. An eye, staring back. They didn't sleep the rest of the night, kept the bathroom door closed, kept the lights on. In the morning, they called the host, told them about the crack, about the light, about the eye. The host laughed, said they were being paranoid, said the crack had been there forever, said no one could possibly be inside the wall, said they'd send someone to patch it up, but not today, maybe next week. Hannah and Sophie didn't want to stay, but they'd already paid 3 nights, non-refundable. They decided to tough it out, just avoid the bathroom at night. That second night, Sophie woke up, heard something, scratching, coming from the bathroom. She shook Hannah awake. They both listened. The scratching got louder, like nails on drywall, like someone trying to dig through. Sophie grabbed her phone, turned on the flashlight. They walked to the bathroom. The scratching stopped. Sophie pushed the door open, shined the light inside. The crack was bigger, not 3 inches anymore, more like 6, like someone had widened it from the inside. Fresh plaster dust was on the floor, still settling, still falling, like it had just been disturbed seconds ago. They left that morning, packed everything, didn't wait for checkout, didn't care about the refund. The host threatened to sue, said they were making false claims, but 3 weeks later, the condo was taken off Airbnb permanently. The building owners had found something behind the bathroom wall, a space, a crawl space, about 3 feet wide, running the length of the building. And inside that space, belongings, backpacks, clothes, a sleeping bag. Someone had been living in the walls, moving between units, watching through cracks, waiting. They never found who it was. The belongings were gone by the time police searched again. But the building installed new walls, sealed every gap, every crack, every opening. Because some guests never check out, they just move into the places between. The spaces we don't see, the spaces we don't think to look. Have you ever heard something in the walls? Scratching, breathing, movement? Let me know, because sometimes the worst roommate is the one you don't know is there. The final story comes from a man named Robert Pierce, 41, a software engineer from Seattle. Robert traveled for work constantly. He'd stayed in over 200 Airbnbs in the last 5 years. He'd seen everything, good, bad, weird. Nothing surprised him anymore. He thought he'd seen it all, until Denver, until the house on Clayton Street, until the basement. Robert booked the house for a week. It was beautiful, Victorian, 3 stories, built in 1903. The listing mentioned the house was historic, mentioned it had been restored, mentioned it had original character. Robert liked that, liked old houses, liked history. He arrived on a Monday afternoon. The host met him at the door, a middle-aged man, thin, nervous energy. His handshake was weak, sweaty, "Welcome," he said. "Everything you need is upstairs. Kitchen, bedroom, bathroom. Stay out of the basement. It's not finished. Just storage down there, locked for safety." Robert nodded. Didn't care about the basement. He was only here to work. The house was beautiful. High ceilings, original woodwork, everything the listing promised. Robert spent the first 2 days working. Video calls, code reviews, normal stuff, but on Wednesday night, he heard it. A sound, coming from below, from the basement. A thud, heavy, like something falling. Robert paused his work, listened. Nothing, just that one thud. He went back to typing. 10 minutes later, another thud, louder this time, like something being dropped or thrown. Robert stood, walked to the basement door. It was locked, just like the host said. Robert knocked. "Hello? Is someone down there?" No answer, just silence. Robert tried the handle, locked solid. He sent a message to the host. "Hey, I'm hearing noises from the basement. Is maintenance down there?" The host responded immediately. No one should be down there. It's locked. You must be hearing the pipes. Old house. Happens sometimes." Robert wanted to believe that, but the thuds kept coming. Every night, same time, around 10 p.m., always from the basement, always heavy, always deliberate. On Friday, Robert decided to investigate. He found a flashlight, went outside, walked around the house, looking for a basement entrance, a window, anything. He found it on the north side, a small window, ground level, covered in grime. Robert wiped it clean with his sleeve, shined the flashlight through. The basement was wrong, not unfinished, not storage. It was a room, a lived-in room. There was a mattress on the floor, blankets, a small lamp, food wrappers, empty water bottles. Someone was living down there. Someone the host said didn't exist. Robert's stomach turned. He looked closer, and that's when he saw it. On the wall, photos, dozens of them, taped up, covering the concrete. Photos of people, different people, men, women, couples, all of them in this house, all of them unaware, taken from angles that suggested hidden cameras, taken from rooms Robert recognized, the kitchen, the bedroom, the bathroom. Robert's face went cold. He looked closer at the photos. Some were recent, some looked old, years old. All different guests, all different times, all watched, all photographed, all collected. And in the corner of the basement, barely visible in the flashlight beam, was someone sitting, watching the window, watching Robert, a figure, thin, pale, with eyes that reflected the light like an animal's. The figure smiled, didn't move, just smiled. Robert ran back to the house, grabbed his things, packed in 3 minutes, ran to his car, drove away. He called the police from a gas station 20 miles out, told them everything. They investigated, found nothing. The basement was empty when they arrived. No mattress, no photos, no one living there. Just an empty concrete room, just storage, just like the host said. But Robert knows what he saw, knows who was down there, watching, collecting, waiting. The listing is still active, still getting 5-star reviews. People still stay there, still sleep in that bedroom, still shower in that bathroom, still walk over that basement, never knowing what's below, never knowing who watches, never knowing they're being added to the collection. Robert deleted his Airbnb account. Stays in hotels now, only hotels, places with security, places with witnesses, because he learned something that night in Denver, learned something we all need to know. When you book a room online, you're trusting a stranger, trusting they are who they say, trusting the space is what they claim, trusting you'll be safe. But trust is a luxury. Trust is a risk. And sometimes trust gets you added to a wall in a basement where no one can hear you scream. So here's my question for you, the question that keeps these people awake at night, the question that should keep all of us more careful. When you book that room, when you unlock that door, when you step inside, are you really alone? Or is someone already there, waiting, watching, living in the spaces you don't see? The basement you're told not to enter, the room behind the locked door, the crack in the wall, the camera hidden in the smoke detector, the shadow that moves when you're not looking. These 8 people learned the truth, learned it the hard way, and now you know it too. The next time you book a room, check the walls, check the locks, check the shadows, because the worst part of traveling isn't the unknown destination, it's the unknown host and what they do when the lights go out. If this video made you look over your shoulder, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Drop a like if you're never using Airbnb again, and tell me in the comments, have you ever stayed somewhere that felt wrong, somewhere that watched you back? Because here at Visões Proibidas, we collect these stories, we share these warnings, we remind you that horror isn't always fiction. Sometimes it's just a booking confirmation away. Stay safe out there, lock your doors, check your rooms, and remember, not every 5-star rating tells the whole story. Sweet dreams.